As I sat there on my bed, simply contemplating the insanity of my life, my phone started to ring. The ringtone was a popular cartoon from when I was a kid, the theme song for it. One that I had watched with my best friend at the time, Steve. And from then on, that kind of became the song for his life. A silly little cartoon song that perfectly fit him. So when I heard it, there was of course no doubt as to who was calling. I was pretty lost in thought at the time, but I decided to go ahead and answer him anyways. Picking up the phone. "Hey Steve," I said, not having much enthusiasm in my voice. "Dude, what happened to you? Like, you and Renee disappeared last night. She even left us with her freaking car, man. So Dish, what's the deal? You guys went the distance, didn't you? You dirty dog." "Ugh," I replied. "No, Steve, we did not go the distance." Stupid or not, for a moment I actually considered telling Steve what happened. He was my oldest friend, but I decided against it. Who knows how he would react if he found out that I was a werewolf? And who knows what kind of laws might circulate the werewolf community? For all I know, telling him would put him in a massive amount of danger. For all I know, they kill people who find out. Me and Renee just lost track of time, that's all, I replied into the phone. We ended up going back to her house. Her mother found us and decided to give us a ride. And she assumed that her car would be safe with Lisa. Oh, come on, man. Why is your life so boring? I mean, you got this super hot girlfriend, you disappear all night, and that's the story you come back with, Steve said, sounding very disappointed. Come on, man, you gotta live a little. Do something crazy. You're far too strict with yourself. Learn to have some fun. Steve, you're about all the fun I can handle, I replied. I'm lucky I didn't get grounded or have my allowance suspended. And I got nothing out of it. Nothing but a series of headaches. Dude, what's the deal? Did you and Renee have a fight or something? Steve asked. No, things have gotten a bit complicated. Well, Dish, man. What's the deal? Okay, Steve, I replied. I suppose it wouldn't hurt anything to let him in on a little bit of information, so long as I extract all of the freaky horror movie details, I thought to myself, taking a deep breath to prepare. Okay, Steve, here's the deal. Renee likes me, like really likes me. We didn't have a fight or anything like that. It's just Renee is very serious about our relationship. She has no intentions of calling it off, I assure you. But her old man isn't too much of a fan of her dating, especially dating me. I mean, we may have the martial arts thing in common, but other than that, he seems to not like me much. So we had been keeping the fact that we were dating kind of secret from him. And though it's sort of a long trip around, long story short, he found out that me and Renee were actually dating and not just friends. And now it seems he's determined to prove that I'm no good, not worth Renee's time or energy, both to Renee and to himself. Renee's mom is a bit more questionable. I'm not really sure where she stands. She seems like the kind of woman who always has a plan about everything, and she never lets you know what it is. I can't read her for the life of me. I don't know whether she likes me or hates me. It's a complete coin flip. My parents are obviously fine with Renee, so I've got no problems there. But other than that, this whole thing has just become very complex. Thinking fast, I came up with a cover story to tell Steve. in order to cover up my lessons with Renee. Well, her family actually suggested that spending more time together might give them a better idea of who I am, I said into the phone, talking to Steve. So I'm going to be spending more time away, spending time with Renee's family, hopefully trying to get them to turn their opinions about me around. In fact, according to them, I'm supposed to be going for a time-spending session with their family later today, and I'm still pretty anxious about it, I said, knowing that our meeting was actually for me to go over more things with Renee. But of course Steve didn't need to know that. Wow, sounds like this is getting pretty serious, dude, Steve said. But dude, you have to lock this down. Renee is easily a 10. A 10 that's rich and into you. And she wants the relationship to be more serious? Dude, you hit the gold mine. Believe it or not, most chicks are not hooked on Kung Fu junkies, looking for their next karate fix. You need to buckle up and put this chick on lock, man, before she ends up with one of those hoity-toity limousine-driving freaks. You know, the my daddy owns the world type. Freaking hate those guys, man, Steve said. Steve commonly did have a distaste for the wealthy, especially wealthy guys with big egos. But I suppose it was primarily because Steve did not come from a well-off family. I mean, even my family was doing fairly well in comparison to his. Both his parents worked minimum wage jobs and didn't pull in a lot of money. So Steve never really had the best of anything. And rich kids tended to pick him out of the crowd as the most shabby-looking person and decide instantly to make him the focus of their ridicule. I've had more than a few scrapes with them about it. I'll be damned if I'm going to let people talk crap about my friend like that. The amount of money you make shouldn't matter. It's whether a person is good or not that counts. And I had no problem showing them that. Eventually, every one of the rich kids that liked to pick on Steve eventually got sick of, well, dealing with me. After a few years of butt kickings, they decided their time was better spent elsewhere. And Steve was always appreciative. And even though he didn't have any martial arts training, he never once backed out, even when the odds were against us. He was right there with me. Punch for punch, you might say. Steve might like to clown around a lot, make corny jokes. He might not even be the brightest guy in the world. But as far as friends go, Steve is rock solid. The type of guy that I'm almost absolutely certain that if I were stuck in a burning building, he would definitely run in to pull me out. Stupid or not, he'd do it. Because the people that he cares about, and has no issue putting it all on the line for them. That's just the kind of guy Steve is. I'm not going to be taking his dating advice anytime soon, but I can always trust him to back me up in any situation. It's all right, Steve, I said into the phone. I think I've got this covered. And trust me, I don't think me and Renee are going to be parting ways anytime soon. We've just got some stuff to work through, that's all. Oh, okay, man, Steve replied. Well, are you going to be burning your whole weekend with Renee? If not, we could go do some stuff. Sorry, Steve, I replied. But I'm probably going to have to burn this weekend spending all my time with Renee and her family, trying to turn this situation around. I'll catch you back at school on Monday. Speaking of which, do you still need to borrow my notes for algebra? If so, you should probably come and pick them up. I should be getting a call from Renee anytime soon, and it'd be better if I didn't have to take a detour. No problem, man. I'll come pick the book up, and I'll give it back to you on Monday when you get back to school. Thanks again for the notes. Trust me, for algebra, I'm gonna need it. In fact, I'm gonna need a miracle, Steve said, which gave me a bit of a chuckle. Steve, as clumsy as he was, had no problems admitting his flaws, and no ego about it either. I think that was one of the things I liked about him. He wasn't so absorbed with being perfect. He was okay with not being flawless, and having his own issues. He had come to terms with it, I guess.